Hello, in this video we're going to take a look at how to add diagrams to SharePoint using the free Draw.io software. Draw.io is an open source software that's available to anyone, and it's a great simple way to draw diagrams like process diagrams in your browser. And in this video I'm going to show how it's really easy to embed those directly into your SharePoint environment. It's a really great combination of tools, and I think you'll be excited to see how you can use these both together. So now, let's get SharePoint smart. Okay, here I am in SharePoint Online, and first of all, let me just talk about Draw.io. Draw.io is a open source software. It's a collaboration between two organizations. One is JGraph, and it's tied with this other company in England. So there's JGraph and Draw.io AG. So these are a couple of companies that worked on the software together, and they talk about their mission and their about page here, and I'll link that under the video. I've loved this software for a long time anytime I want to make a diagram. And they've also got a blog which explains a little bit about some of their recent updates and things like that. We're going to start by jumping right into Draw.io so I can show you what it is in case you've never used it before. So in your browser you can just type draw.io. It'll take you right there, and it'll ask you to make a new diagram. Now when you first go in here, it's going to ask you your storage, and for what I'm demonstrating you do want to use cloud storage. There are some other options and you can explore that later if you're curious about those, but in my video I'm going to demonstrate Google Drive, but you can use OneDrive for the same purpose. Either one would be fine. This can just be your personal storage. So I'll stick with Google Drive, and I'm going to create a new diagram, and I'm storing this in my Google Drive folder, and I'm just going to do help support process, and I'm going to stick with blank diagram. There's some other starter templates you can use. I'll click create, and then it asks me at the folder. I have a particular folder I like to use, so I'm going to go ahead and jump to that, and I'm going to go to my diagrams, and that's where I want to go. So select diagrams folder, and it'll jump me right into this editor. Now I kind of have some habits in how I like to do this. You can see this graph paper looking interface, and that's where you're going to begin. I like to give it a little bit of a gray background, so I'll do background color. There's the color swab, and you can just kind of jump right in, and then I can start drawing a process diagram. The cool thing about this software is that it is incredibly intuitive. You've got these shapes on the left hand side. You can just drag those out onto the interface, and it's really easy to do things like copy and paste, and then the sizing is going to snap to the grid that you have. It just works extremely well in terms of drawing diagrams. So I've already got a process in mind. I'll go ahead and just do some of that just to demonstrate what it's like working in this Draw.io interface. So this is going to be for a help request process. So I'll put a title up there. And what I want you to notice is how fluid everything is. So I'm going to make that larger. I can just use this up arrow to make that bigger. That's just kind of like a title I've got on the page. And I'm not going to really worry about how things are lined up at the moment. So the beginning of the process is help request, and then I can click onto this and do things like background color. So we'll make that kind of the top of the process, and then once you kind of get your shape started, you can just do some copy and paste, and that way they stay the same size. So after that, I've got my next step in the process, which is review by the help desk team. So I can just click into that and say review, and I want to give that a different color. And now we can start doing the arrows, which is a really cool part of this. So when you hover over this, you can connect and it's going to make little arrows for you. And so now I'm making a process diagram. Okay, so if we need more information, then we're going to send it back to the person who made the request. So I'll do that. I'm going to make it kind of line up with my grid too. Okay, so this will be need info. I'll keep doing different colors, just to keep things interesting. I'll make that yellow. And then the user needs to provide, more information. So they're going to fill out more information. Okay, add user adds data. And since that's done by the user, I'll make that one blue, just kind of match with the top spot. And then once they do that, it's kind of ready to resubmit. So I'll put resubmit. You can see how it just snaps into alignment. So it's just so simple. I don't have to worry about all those precise adjustments. Submit updates. Okay, and watch how I can just make these arrows really easily. I've got my giant cursor going, so it makes it hard for me to see, but normally you'd have a regular size mouse cursor. And right just then trying to get the little handle there. I'm having a hard time because I made this giant cursor, but I will get it. Here, let me try another one of them. Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. I need to not select the shape. There we go. So you kind of see the gist of it. I've got these little diagrams. I'll do a few more blocks, then we should be all set. So once everything's needed, then the help desk team is going to start working on the ticket. So we're going to say in progress, and let's give that another color. We'll do purple for that, and then after it's in progress, let's see, there's going to be status updates going out. So status updates, we'll have some emails going out, and then it's going to get resolved or canceled. So we'll do 2 more blocks like this. I just did copy and paste, just Control C, Control V, and then I'll say canceled or complete. I usually think of complete as being green, so I can just click on that, cancel, I give kind of a gray, and then I can do some more arrows now. There's that one, and just trying to give you guys a little bit of an idea what it's like working with this software. There are hundreds of shapes you can choose from. You can configure everything you can possibly think of in terms of the way that the arrows look, the background colors, the grid size. You've got different categories of different elements you can put out on the grid. It's just really great. You don't have to run it on any software that you install. You can just use that directly in your browser. So a lot of very cool possibilities with this software. So anytime I'm making a process diagram, this is my go-to. I know some of you Microsoft longtime users like to use something like Visio, or even some of you may even use PowerPoint, and that's okay. You can use those options, but there are some advantages here. I'm going to demonstrate that as we go forward in the video. So this is my diagram. I just created this real quick just as a demonstration, but you can do things a lot more sophisticated. Okay, so now the question is, you can draw these cool diagrams in Draw.io. I can even export those as an image, but that would just be a static image. And what we're going to show is how I can embed a frame into the SharePoint page where it will show this diagram for me in SharePoint. So let me hop back over to SharePoint. In order to open the door for you to be able to have this capability, there's a setting that you need to change first. So you need to be a site collection administrator for your site, or you need to reach out to your SharePoint admin to do this. It's a very easy setting change, but you do need to have permissions. So in my case, I'm going to Site Information, View All Site Settings, and this is a sub-site, so I need to go up to the top level. You need to get to the Site Collection Settings screen. On that screen at the very bottom is a special setting called HTML field security. And that's the setting that you're going to need to change. Now, by default, it's going to have this first option selected, and that blocks traffic, images, any kind of embedded content from other websites outside of SharePoint. And if you don't change this setting, you can't use the functionality that I'm getting ready to show. You have two options. You can either do the second one, which will just allow content from any sites, or you can be more specific. You can use the third option and actually add the URL. Now, if you're going to do this, the URL for Drawio is actually app.diagrams.net. So you just click add, and that tells it specifically to make it where we can see these diagrams that originate from this site. So either the second option or you can do the third option and explicitly add that. I'm going to go ahead and leave it with the setting I like. I want to keep that door open for lots of different sites. Hit OK, and now you've opened the door and you can do this embed process, which is going to be our next step. All right, so let me go back to where I was. Okay, here's my site, and once you've drawn your diagram, we want to get some code to get ready, and we have to prepare things. So I actually want to open up another one of my diagrams. So let me go into my folder. Go there now, go to my diagrams, and I'm going to go to a particular diagram, which is here. Okay, so I just opened it from Google Drive, and just kind of have one with more going on, just as an example. Now, in order for you to be able to embed this and share this with other users, you need to adjust the permissions on your diagram. That's easy to do. Remember, we're going to use cloud storage. I'm recommending that you use either Google Drive, as I'm doing in my case, or you're going to use OneDrive, which is Microsoft's equivalent. Either one of those would be fine. What's key is that you have to share this out and make it viewable for anyone with a link. I've already turned that on in the case of this diagram. By default, it's turned off. Make sure that you have opened it up so that anyone with the link can view. You can see I already have those settings applied, and that's going to make it where otherwise you'd have a login prompt or something like that appear. So any diagrams you're doing like that, be sure you have opened that access for anyone to be able to see that. So I've got that part set, and that's going to get me ready for the next step. Once you've done that, there's an option in Drawio which is Embed iframe, and that is what's going to let us drop this into SharePoint. So I'm going to pick that option, and it tells you you need to make sure that you've shared it. I've already done that step, so I'm good to go. There's some other configuration options. It asks you what you want for the height. Now, it automatically detects your diagram, how much real estate it's taking up, so it's already going to pre-populate with the height. So you can just leave that as is. You could always tweak it later if you want to. That's it. Now I can click create, and it gives me this embed code, this iframe code, which I can copy, and I can now go back to SharePoint and embed that diagram. Okay, so I'm coming back to SharePoint, and I'm going to do a new page, and I'm going to call this, let's see. Well, first of all, let me get my page the way I like it. I would recommend that you do a plain page. It'll give you more real estate in the body of the page. You don't have to do that, but I really want people to just focus on my diagram. And I'm going to say warehouse process. Okay, I got rid of my name out of there. I don't want this text web part. I want one web part on the page, which is going to be embed. So if you type embed, this is one of the modern web parts. Click on embed, and then you just paste in that iframe code, provided from Draw.io. Okay, there is my diagram. Isn't that cool? Okay, so now I can just click out of there and click Publish. And now, without having to log in or anything like that, anyone can view my diagram. Now, what's better than the image is the fact that I can do things like zoom in, zoom out. Once I've done that, I can snap back in. And even when I'm zoomed in, I can pan. I can do things like I can do printout. I can open this in another page. There it is, opening in a new page. And I see the pencil icon because I'm logged in under me. It detects that. But other users will not see the pencil icon. They can't change your diagram. And let me just move that back to its default state. Now what's cool about this, now that I've created this SharePoint page to hold my diagram, well, I'm getting ready to make more changes to it. Wouldn't that be a pain if I had to keep repeating this process each time? You don't have to. I can see something, for example, my diagram that's wrong. I'm going to go ahead and tweak it. So over in Draw.io, I can see I've got this box here that I don't care about. And I'm going to just try and get rid of that. Oh, it's connected to this. All right, well, let's just relabel it. Okay, that's what it used to say. So I'll say test lab, change the font color to blue. it's not cooperating with me. Hold on. Let's do something different. I'll change the colors of these to something different just to illustrate that the changes are reflected. So I can just save like that. And if I go back to my SharePoint page, if I do a refresh, notice that it automatically updated. So once I've made that connection point, that's automatically going to be reflected. So I just think that's really cool. I could make as many SharePoint pages as I want to for these diagrams. So I can author that diagram, or I could have other editors if I have somebody else helping me with that, and differentiate between the people who are just viewing it. And especially if you have to make a really sophisticated diagram, sometimes you have issues where in SharePoint you kind of have a limited amount of real estate. And so the fact that this is interactive and lets you zoom and drag around and do things like that opens the door so that you could make a really large diagram where users could kind of move around the diagram, that type of thing. I don't have to worry about how much space. I could basically make as big a diagram as I want to in that tool, and my users now have an interface to interact with that. So I just think that's really cool. So I hope you found that interesting. I have loved Draw.io for years. I've been using their software. I really appreciate the fact that they're able to make this freely available to anyone. So, you know, Google Drive, OneDrive, Drawio, all those tools are freely available. And now you have the ability to bring this really awesome diagram making software, which you don't need any training on. You can train yourself. In fact, I'm sure I'm just scratching the surface. There's probably a lot of different kinds of things you can draw in there, and you can explore and kind of take it as far as you want to. And this could now be a really great go-to option for you to show a diagram in SharePoint. I know that when I start projects, it helps me to visualize what I'm doing. So typically, if you have any kind of automated tool in SharePoint or a business process, you want to have some kind of diagram to illustrate what the steps are. And it's great for planning your projects, but also maybe you're releasing a new process or you're doing some kind of training. That diagram is going to be really useful. So now I can use it as a training tool to share out with users and give them a picture of what the steps are. And I don't have to worry about things like repeating a bunch of steps to export an image and import it back to SharePoint. I don't have to deal with the heavy software. And this is something I can share with other users. And we don't have to worry about things like, well, do they have Visio installed? or I don't have to deal with, quirkiness that might come in trying to make something like this in, PowerPoint, for example. Draw.io is just really great at what it does. It's focused specifically just on this single purpose, to draw a diagram with shapes and then be able to have arrows that connect those shapes together. It just does it perfectly. Everything snaps to alignment. It's just the most fluid and easy to work with diagram tool that I've worked with. And naturally, I've always already been into SharePoint, and I was just so tremendously excited to realize that you can combine something that I really love with SharePoint and embed it right in there. So just all kinds of possibilities. I hope you found that useful. Be sure to check the links under the video, which will point you to the resources you need for this. And if you found this interesting, you liked it, please give me an upvote. And if you don't already subscribe to my channel, check that out. And check out also SharePointDashboards.com. That's my tool where I have all my information on really cool templates for visualizing data in SharePoint. Good luck.